Hello everybody, this is Backblast. Here I am again. It's part 2 of my penguin enclosure building thing. It's quite a long video, so if you want to just see the result, you'll have to jump towards the end. The last sort of 2 or 3 minutes you'll see what we've created. It's going to be a lot of messing around and a lot of looking at maps, trying to work out exactly what's going on. This is one of the enclosures that I really don't have many photographs of, and of course your Google Maps and your Bing Maps don't have great resolution. It's very difficult to get in close, and it's quite difficult to sort of get around on the ground view in Google Maps as well. There's not an awful lot of information for this area. I've got a good idea of where I'm going with it, though. I've got some knowledge from my visit in February. 2020-ish is when I went, and I took some photographs but not many, and we're going to start off with this area at the top, which there's a path that overlooks the enclosure. There's a little bit of a gap in between the enclosure and the public bit, and then on the right there's a little sweet shop there that we're going to put in later, but we're starting off with this wall. This area is themed with a stone effect wall that runs pretty much all the way around this side of the enclosure. You can only see the top of it from this side, obviously because of the ground level and the path level, because you're quite high up here compared to the rest of the enclosure. But if you go around to the other side, the rock facing sort of it goes all the way into the tank. It's quite a large thing. And again, down at the bottom here, you can see it. It's the full height of the tank here. So we're just trying to make sure that we've got a covering on the concrete. It's basically what I'm trying to do. Originally, this enclosure used to have this rock facing all around it, apart from the windows, but the windows were surrounded by it. So there was a rock facing ran across the top of the windows, and where the joins are in the windows, there was also a rock column. So it was almost like you were looking through the rock into the enclosure, and that's since been taken away, and we now have some chrome dividers in between the windows, and the rock facing is still on this part of the enclosure, but not further round, so we'll get to that in a bit. So we're just using these panels. These are just to cover it up. They don't do anything. They don't hold the water back. I can't get rid of the barrier. These are just to cover the barrier up, so it looks as though it's a stone thing. So I'm just using various little bits. There's no rhyme or reason to it. I'm just trying to use a variety of different pieces so you don't get the same piece repeated across the wall. So my aim in this video was just to show you the work that I'd done. I actually recorded this almost a week ago, I think. It's just taken me a while to get around to doing it. I've been involved with some other games in the meantime. I don't worry. I've not given up on the Chester Zoo. This is still very much a large work in progress. In fact, this morning I wrote a list of everything that needs doing to the bits that I've already made, and also the bits I'd sort of like to go into. And I primarily focused on the old side of the zoo, the side that has the house and the stables and the old lion enclosure and pretty much most of the stuff that I've been building anyway. And the list is it's a long list. I need to change some fences on the elephant walkway. The cafe at the entrance still isn't right. I want to redo the entrance buildings. I need to finish the stables off. I want to put the old boat ride in. So the old boat ride used to run from near where the lion enclosure used to be, and it goes all the way through the old part of the park, past the outside of the tropical realm, all the way up to where the Jaguar house is now, and then it used to turn around and come all the way back. And I want to put that in. I think I've got an idea now of where I want to go with this zoo. I've got I actually want to build 2 zoos, which is rather ambitious, but it'll be easy once I've built one to sort the second one out. So the idea is going to be that I'm going to build it approximately how the zoo looked in 2019, or at the end of 2019, beginning of 2020, which includes the new lion enclosure. So if you're not sure where that is now close to the butterfly house, near to the giraffe house. So it's going to include that rather than the old lion enclosure, which was over near the stables. And you can see me struggling with this fence here on screen. I'm not happy with this fence. I'll come back to this later and change it all. So I'm going to include all that, and of course the jaguar house, tropical house, the giraffes where they are now is going to go in. What else? So the lions as they are now, the giraffes where they are now. I'm going to put in all the islands area. You know, the new islands area with the boat ride, the new boat ride, and the new tiger enclosure, and that's all going in. So that will all be in this zoo. So as the zoo looked early 2020, late 2019 is going to be what I'm aiming for. But there are a few things that aren't included with that I do want to put in. So for example, the monorail ride, which as of early 2020 had been partly demolished. What else? The giraffe house obviously is changing, and I think it'll stay where it is for a while, because the new area that they're building for the giraffes will take a while to build. So I think that will stay in. I want to put the old boat ride in and have the new boat ride. So the idea is that what I'm going to do is I'm going to create the zoo as it looked early 2020. And then as things change, I'm going to have a second zoo, which will be more of a legacy zoo, what it used to be. If you look on screen now, I'm creating this door. So again, I've used this trick before. So you place a door down, but because the game has limited number of doors and you can't find exactly what you want, I've used the old door, the one that the game provides, to give me the handle and hinges and door frame. But then I've covered it with my own fascia. So this thing is actually some planks. It's got some nice looking planks that run along the side here. But I've got the door handle on, so it saves me having to try and make a door handle, because I've done that before and it never easy to make it work properly. But there you go. We're doing fine. So I want to have a zoo that is as it is now, pretty much. But then as things change in the zoo, I want to be able to keep the old elements. So I want to keep the painted dogs, for example. But obviously, I think, and I'm not 100% sure about this, but I think the painted dogs are going to disappear. The area where they are now will become swallowed up by this new Africa environment. Now, I don't know if the painted dogs is included in that area, or whether they get removed from the park, or they go to a different area of the park. But I think that I'd quite like to keep that painted dogs enclosure. I like the enclosure. I put a lot of work into it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a legacy zoo, which will have all the things in it that have been removed from the zoo. So it will still be a working zoo. It will have all the things that are in there, but the monorail will be in it. The monorail won't be in my modern zoo because it has been taken out of modern Chester Zoo. The old boat ride will be in it, even though I'm not convinced it runs anymore in the zoo. In reality, I don't think that the old boat ride runs. I'm not 100% sure about that. It might run a limited service during the summer, but I really don't know. I tend to go to the zoo in winter anyway. Or during the quieter months, simply because it's quieter. You don't get loads of people running around, and you get enough time with each of the enclosures as you require, without having to queue to see into the tigers, or or getting having to stand cheek to jowl to people. It's much nicer to be able to just sit on your own and watch for a while and not be disturbed by other people. And and you can still get some nice times, you know, in autumn or in early in the year when it's quiet, but the weather's pretty good as well. So that's when I tend to go. So I don't really know if the boat ride runs during the summer or not. It's been a long while since I went in the height of summer. So, but it will be in my old version of the zoo. So likewise, there are changes to other parts of the zoo going on. I might recreate the zoo with the lion enclosure in the old area near the stables and the house. I'm not sure. We shall see. So that's my idea. So the main job will be to create the zoo as it is right now, pretty much as it is right now, and then I will save a copy of it, and then I will add in the old boat ride, the monorail, and a few of the other bits. Maybe the old lion enclosure. We'll see. We shall see. So there you go. So pretty much I've been building this fencing up here. Again, you know, you look at the real zoo, and the fencing's a lot more weathered than it is in game. The game is very limited with the effects that I can put onto things. So you know, I've had to make this fence myself because there's nothing like it in game, and so you're limited to the pieces you've got. Sometimes you can do a really good job, like for example the roof on the giraffe house. I've done a good job of that, but other times it's a bit limiting. So I've mentioned before, the problem with one of the big problems with the game is pathing system. Water and barriers, they just don't like each other, so it's hard to put a path down with water near it for some reason. So you need to remove the water to put a decent path in. It won't let me put that square in there, for example, because it's too close to the water, and it took me a while to sort of get that to work, and then even then I wasn't happy. I want people to be able to walk right up to the window here, and I want the path to curve around the window, but it won't let me place the path because of the water. So switch the water off, then put the pathing in. It's a nightmare, isn't it? I do spend quite a bit of time coming back and covering this up, so it looks as though you can walk everywhere, but you can't. The people in game can only walk on the path. So this was a good idea. I deleted the ground all the way back to the path, and then put the path back in, and there's a little switch on the pathing system to say if you want to level the ground or not, and I said yes, level the ground underneath the path, and it built the path, and it redid the ground so that the ground came up to meet the path. So it actually worked out quite nicely there. I'm quite pleased with that little bit. One tiny bit of path I'm pleased with. That's it. That's all I'm pleased with. The rest of it, no, needs a lot of work. Just fiddling with the old fence here. So as you can imagine, I mean, how far into the video are we now? We're about 13 minutes in or something like that. I don't know. Are we 13 minutes in? I don't know. I honestly don't know. I think I'm 13 minutes in. And it's... I may be completely wrong with that. I've got a timer on my screen, and I'm sure it says 13 minutes. I can't have been talking for 13 minutes, can I? Oh, well, never mind. The point I'm making is it takes a long time to do anything. If you want to achieve something specific, you know, it's easy to just plonk a building down, plonk an enclosure in, and put a few rocks in it. That's fine. If you want to try and replicate something in the real world, so for example, I wasn't happy with where this building was. It needed to be a bit further back and a bit more of an angle to the enclosure. So I needed to just change it, but now it won't build the path back. I'm having to redo it again. But it just takes time to get things right. So if you can imagine, this video, it's about 50 minutes long, and this video is part 2. So the other video was 20 minutes long, and it's sped up. Don't forget that. The game is sped up, so I'm creating this, and I'm probably about 40 minutes into a build here. even though you've seen like 14 minutes. I'm probably 14 minutes in. I think I sped this up 4 times. This is at 4 times the speed. So it does take quite a long time to build something, especially if you're trying to get it right or get it to how you're happy. So you see on the right here, there's a big gap now in between the land and the wall. In order to get rid of that gap, I would need to remove the barrier. And I'm really not keen on removing the barrier again. So this area was interesting. I actually thought this was more wooded when I initially started thinking about doing this. But when you look at photographs of it as it is now, it's quite sparsely decorated. It's quite barren. It's actually a gravel or a shale up there, and it's across the top bit there aren't many plants at all. There's a couple of trees, 2 or 3 trees. Down this area's quite a lot more wooded, and I build this up with some bushes and some ground cover here. There are a couple of spruce stroke pine type trees down there, but this is more indicative of how the actual area is. It's quite lightly covered up there and then gets more heavily covered. I've tried to make it look a little bit like shale or gravel, but again, there's no shale or gravel in the game, so it's hard to get a decent effect. So I'm not as keen on these when I haven't got the right benches, because there's nothing that looks like the benches in the park. There's also nothing that looks like the bins in the park, and also I think I could do with making the path a little bit wider there, just to be able to get the benches in and still have a decent amount of walking space around them. So the stupid path wouldn't build all the way up to the fence here. So I wanted to cover it up so that it looked as if the decking was sort of along all the way up to the fence up here. And I wanted to then sort of blend it into the other bit of decking. So it's not a great colour at the moment. I try and blend it in a bit better by changing the colour in a short while. But this takes a while to just put things down and do, you know. Yeah, there's a stone block runs under the window, so I wanted to put that in so that I can hide the end of the wooden deck that I'm putting in. I didn't want to put the deck down and then put the stone facing in and then realise that the stone facing doesn't cover the bottom of the deck. It needs to tuck under so it looks as though it goes all the way up to it. I'm just trying to decide on which piece I like. I think this one's my favourite out of all of them, even though it's a brick, and in reality it looks more like concrete in the real world, but I think I've got a good colour and a good shape there. So you can see how it's covering the end of the decking, giving the effect that it's built right up to it. Whereas the actual brown pathway that you can see there, it goes nowhere near it, because it's got water in the exhibit. Just trying to line all the edges up there, so that's quite a nice effect on the bottom, and then we carry on with about an hour's worth of building deck. It took me a while to do this. I'm still not convinced by it, and again, at some point in the future I might come back and have another look at the pathways down here. I'm not that keen on them. The trouble is as well, because in game or in real life these are sloped pathways. This is me trying to get a good colour that matches a bit better with the other deck. It's a bit better. Stands out still, but it's better than it was. Save the game regularly, folks. Yeah, I'm still there. I'm still trying to get a bit of path going over in that direction. I'm not happy with it. We got a bit of path there. Look, we can walk all the way over to the, but you can't build a bit of path that runs just along that bit. It won't let you. You can walk into that wooded area, or not at all. So half of the game is trying to mimic reality, and the other half of the game is fighting with the game. It's just you're fighting with the controls to make it do what you want it to look like. Now, in real life, there's a little barrier here which stops the penguins from getting out of the enclosure. In game, it doesn't actually do anything apart from look like a barrier, but it will stop them getting onto that little ledge, and in reality it stopped them getting onto the wall. I don't know what I'm looking at here. What am I looking at here? Oh, more decking. We're back on the decking. Yay, more decking. Hooray. But again, I want it to go all the way up to the window, so let's make it look as though people can get up to the window. It's just a shame there are no penguins in game. So another reason for doing the decking is to cover up the strip in the middle of these two pathways. So in game it looks as though there's two paths next to each other with a big gap. I don't know why it doesn't just sort of say, oh yeah, it's all one path. We can have all one path here, no problem. It just doesn't do it. So and my thinking was that the more decking I put down, then the less obtrusive it would be. You know, if it actually covered all of as much of the old pathway as I could. Yeah, doesn't look great, does it? Like I said, I'll probably come back and do a little bit more on this. I'll probably scrap it and do the pathways again. But at the moment, I've got bigger fish to fry. When I've finished this video, my itinerary for the day says have a bath, because I've just been out for a short run, and I've run a quarter of a bath, and then thought, hey, you know what I'll do? I'll go and record that voiceover for that penguin video. So I'm sat here doing that in some running clothes, a bit smelly. So sorry about that. But we're going to have a bath, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start building my Realm of the Red Ape. I think that's what I'm going to do. Which is, I'm sort of looking forward to it, and I'm sort of not looking forward to it. It's a big building. It's the Orangutan House at Chester Zoo, which incorporates the old. There's an old building that's incorporated with it, which. Oh, now let me think. I remember going in the old building. So originally, when I first started going to the zoo, and I'm quite old. Oh look, this is interesting here. I'm using a sign here to create the chrome effect on the windows, and it's actually a signpost. So in theory, I could have words going up and down that, but it looks quite good. I'm quite pleased with that bit. Now we're trying to do something inside. I've no idea what I'm trying to do inside, but we'll do that. I think I'm going to finish the enclosure by putting some snow in it, and I haven't done it on video, but I will do it when I come to mess around with the park again later. So when I started going to the zoo, there was a building that I'm pretty sure it housed chimps. I don't ever remember there being gorillas at Chester Zoo. I do know that there were gorillas. I just don't remember them. And I can't remember if they were in this building. It's an old wooden building, and it's where the realm of the Red Ape is now. And the actual old building is still there. It's on the side of it. There are some other animals housed in there, but I can't tell you what they are. I don't know if it's a small deer or some sort of mammal in there. I'm not sure. But that's still there, and that is going to be part of this big build. So the build will be the Realm of the Red Ape, this new, the old building, and the new enclosures that go around the Realm of the Red Ape. so that the orangutans in there can actually get to the outside and go into the trees and forage and whatnot they need, whatever they need to do outside. So it's going to be quite an interesting build. It's a huge building. There's a walkway that goes. It's raised. It's up in the air. All the ground level stuff in that building is keeper area, and I don't know what it looks like. I honestly do not know what the downstairs of that building looks like. So trying to get that right is going to be quite difficult. But I understand there will be keeper areas. There will probably be a food prep area. Maybe something else. I don't know. So it's going to take a little bit of digging on the internet to find out what I can as to, if I can find any plans for the building, or whether I can find any construction. When it was being built, maybe there's a couple of construction photos, or maybe the people that designed it have it on their website. I doubt it. It is quite an old building. I don't know when it was built, but it's been there a number of years now. And I honestly, I don't like the building. I don't think it's a great building. It's a massive metal edifice, or it looks metal, and I always get the impression that it's not a great place. I'd much rather see a more naturalistic looking building, but when you walk inside this building, it's all metal, and I don't like it. Generally, I'm a massive fan of Chester Zoo, but this particular building it's one of my least favourite buildings. I look at it and think, yeah, I wish they'd done a better job on that. The outside area of like the Jaguars and the inside of the Jaguar building, it's beautiful. The building is a striking building. You go inside and it's themed, and then you look into the enclosures, and there's a quite a barren enclosure that with some stonework that's fallen over, which doesn't house jaguars anymore, but it used to. And then the other side is more of the tropical jaguar area, and you get a lot more vegetation, and there's some water. There's a stream outside on that half of it. And I just think that the building looks brilliant, the enclosure looks brilliant for the animals in there, and then you go and look at the Red Ape one, which is the next big building along, and the bit that you walk through is actually quite well done. It's a raised walkway. You've got jungle type sounds. There's a mist in the air. It's got vegetation, or fake vegetation, and that's pretty good. You look through the windows into the enclosure, and it's just metal, and I don't like it. I really don't like it. And that's just my opinion. My biggest concern is always going to be the welfare of the animals, and I'll always hope that they're as happy as they can be. But yeah, I must admit, I'm sort of in two minds as to whether I'm going to enjoy building this. I think putting a big building into my zoo would be a great thing to do, but it's not a great building to build. The Jaguar building is amazing. It's an incredible building, and I'm sure this new Africa area that they're going to build will be a tremendous looking thing as well. So I'm really looking forward to see what it is they've created. If I can look at recent things they've built, so the whole new islands area, that's an amazing place. There's lots of vegetation. The enclosures look interesting. A lot of them run down to water, and they just look great. They look fantastic. And the building, which unfortunately is closed at the moment because of the fire, and well, now also the COVID-19 restrictions. Again, inside that building, it looks incredible, and there's the walkway that runs around, and there's lots of different exhibits in there, and it's a really interesting thing. That's going to be a really difficult building game, because the game doesn't do small very well. The smallest path you can build is 4 meters wide, which, if you think about it, that's actually quite a wide pathway. If you think of something like the butterfly house, it's got a little wooden walkway through it. There's no way that's 4 meters wide. So once you've put a 4 meter wide path in that butterfly house, there's no room to put a raised 4 meter walkway next to it. The building isn't physically big enough. I'm getting a dry mouth. I'll just have a quick sip of tea, so just bear with me. Yeah. So I've mentioned it before. There are a couple of buildings that I'm not looking forward to building in the zoo. One of them is the Jubilee restaurant, which is now June's restaurant. The walls and windows should be fine. The roof is going to be a nightmare. It's got little hexagons all over it. It looks really complicated. So the game just doesn't cater for unusual or different. You've got to try and create, and it'll be a challenge. But you know, what a challenge that's going to be. The actual house as well is going to be difficult. It's a very complicated old building, and it has lots of little alcoves and windows and chimney breasts, and it is. It's going to be quite a challenge to build that accurately, or as accurately as I can get it. That's going to be quite difficult. I know there's going to be a few others. But the big tropical house in the islands area is also going to be difficult because of the size restrictions. If you think about it, I don't know if you've walked around this area, but there's some sort of chimp in there or ape in there. It's a small ape. And I don't know if they're spider monkeys or something like that. I'm not convinced they're spider monkeys. They might be howlers or something. I'm not sure what they are, but I think their enclosures on 2 levels, and you can see it from a path high up in a walkway, and then you go further down the path and round, and you can see into the enclosure at a different level. And things like that are just going to be so difficult, because I think underneath that path is there's an alligator or a gharial in there. It's just going to be quite a complicated build in a very, very small place, and I'm not sure I can carry it off to do it very, very great justice. Now then, what am I doing here on screen? Right, this enclosure, all the bits that are facing the water here, they're fake rock. They are painted white to look as though it's a snowy effect, and some of it isn't white because it's just dirty. It's got it's just been there a while. You know, it just gets dirt in there, penguin poo. There are some bits that are green because there's water been on it or splashed on it, and then algae's grown. So it's a mixture of green, white and grey, and it's quite difficult to get the accurate effect there. I'm just building these plants up in the middle here, just trying to get them so that they're covering all the rocks, or covering all the gaps in the rocks anyway. So that's what I'm trying to do there. I've created a little waterfall there, which there is one in real life. Again, I don't know if it runs. When I went earlier in the year, it wasn't running. But again, it might run at certain times of the year. It might have been undergoing maintenance. It might not run anymore. I don't know. There's also part of me wondering whether I should make the water less smooth. So the water in here is quite a smooth water effect. In reality, the penguins are swimming pretty much all of the time in the water, and it's quite a choppy area, choppy environment. So there's a couple of bits I'm not happy with this enclosure. That pathing didn't quite work out as I'd like it to. It's difficult to get paths in the right place. I don't know if they're going to change anything, the game developers, to make the paths easier. They've made the slopes easier to make, and I don't know if they're going to look at some of the other pathing issues. So if they are, it might help me redo the paths at some point. But the other thing is the rocks in there. I'm not 100% convinced they look great. I think it needs a few other bits to just fill it out. And one of those things is probably going to be the water, the snow. So once I've put a snowy effect in there, I think that it will make the area look a lot better. So all I'm doing now is I'm creating a fence. So where the windows are in the enclosure, running up to the building, it's all a wooden fence. So I'm creating a couple of panels here. I'm just changing the colours on the panels so that they're not all one uniform colour. And then we're just going to go and plonk them in the right place. And then what I'll do is I'll duplicate it and copy it further up. I think also what I'm going to do is change the heights on the planks. So at the moment we're just copying it across. There we go. And now we need to just make sure that they cover the wall that's there. So things like this and the planks that I put on the path, there's no easy way of doing this. This is just a manual perseverance and not smashing your head through the monitor. It just takes so long to just another one, adjust that one, and it's it's like pulling teeth. It's a labour of love though. It's a labour of love. I wouldn't be making it if Chester Zoo didn't have a special appeal to me. There you go. There we go. Now you've got sort of a patterned effect here. Save the game, folks. Save the game. You've got sort of a patterned effect here. So I just wanted to go in and change a few of the logs so that it's not quite so uniform. So it doesn't go yellow, yellow, brown, yellow, yellow, brown, that sort of thing. I wanted it to be a bit more random. So I just changed a few. Still doesn't look great, does it? It looks all right, don't get me wrong. I'm fairly pleased with it. It's the whole... I think one of the things is you sort of sit and you look at a fence for ages and you build a fence, you change it, you change the colours, you change the logs, you change it into planks, you do different things, and you build it, and you sort of look at it and think, and then when you draw the camera back and look at the whole enclosure, you actually think, that looks all right. I've done a good job. And you look at the whole enclosure for this, and you just sort of think, yeah, actually, I can see this. I like this. It's all right. It's just that a lot of the little bits when I was building it, I wasn't that happy with. I just seemed to struggle with getting the right materials or the right pathway or the right fence or it just took a bit. So we do have some signage on the building here. So it's got penguins written across in large letters. There is a picture of a penguin above this sign. But unfortunately, no penguins in the game. Pengusin. Pengusin. Right, I need to make sure that they're all at the right height. And I'm just checking different things here. What am I doing? I have no idea what I'm doing. We want something to measure the height. There we go. So that's horizontal. Just pop that in horizontally. There we go. And I can now just bring the letters onto it so that it looks as though the writing's not going up the building, and it's all the correct colour now. So I can't put a picture of a penguin in. I do try and put a couple of other things in to maybe make it look as though it's a it's a penguin or something up there. There you go. And then there's some writing underneath, and it doesn't do small writing, this game. That's the smallest writing you can do. So if you want to do anything smaller, you need to put a sign in. So it says something like Rare Penguin Breeding Centre or something like that on the side. So again, I'm using these signs, these gold signs, and these are fantastic. I realised I could do this, or when I realised I could do this, it changed the way I thought about some of the signs that I'd made. Unfortunately, some words it puts in large letters and some in small, and I can't quite work out why. I don't know why. Even if I put extra characters on the rare there, where it says rare, I put ... to make the word longer. It doesn't then sort of go, oh, it's a long word, let's make it small letters. Nope. It just, the word rare is bigger. I did find a way of doing it with breeding and centre. So the G of breeding is on the same sign as centre there. So that actually says breeding, and the last sign says G centre. And that made the word centre a lot smaller, but that's good. And then I put rare P and then Engwin. So I'm just adjusting where they are. But the beauty of these signs is that you can move them into the building. If I gently push them back into the building and I get it just at the right spot, the back of the sign disappears, but the letters don't. So you can see I'm just trying to find the right spot. It is tricky, but there is a spot. Oh, there you go. G center's done. G center was done there. It's easier for me to do it all individually. I can just move the sign back so the back of the sign disappears, but the letters are still showing. Sometimes it's just so tricky to get it. Look at that. It says Rare Penguin Breeding Centre. There's me trying to put a penguin in. No penguins in the game, you fool. Now then, if you look on Google Maps and at this building, obviously it's very blurry and a long way away, but it's there is a building there. There is a structure right there where I've put that solar panel, and it looks like a solar panel. I don't think that in game in reality it is a solar panel. I think it's something else. It just looks a bit like one, and it just gives me an opportunity to place one, which will give me power for the exhibit and whatever's close by. And we're actually coming to the end of the video now, so I think what we're going to do is we'll go back to normal time, and I'll be able to just give you a little brief look around the enclosure, or as it is. So this is the view from the top of the enclosure. You can see, obviously, when I've put all this bit in there, it'll look better. It always looks better when it's part of a larger zoo rather than an exhibit out on its own. But there you go. So that is our penguins area. I hope you've enjoyed the video. I hope you like it. Please, 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 if you like the videos, press the thumbs up. It does me a great deal of good and makes me happy. If you've got any questions or comments, please leave them in the comments. I try to answer any questions. Yeah, and there you go. Hope you've enjoyed it. I'll be back soon with the Realm of the Great Ape, maybe. My name's Backblast. I'll see you next time. Actually, we're not gone yet. I think there's another 30 or 40 seconds on the video, but we're just looking round. This was the bit I said I'm not 100% keen on it. When I put snow in it, it'll look better. I think that it's going to cover the ground a lot better up there, and yeah, there is. I think this bit that I'm looking at round there. I think there's some breeding boxes up there. There you go. Anyway, that's it. I hope you've enjoyed that. Anyway, so as I said, thumbs up, please, for the videos. Please leave comments. I always try and answer. If you've got a question, I'll answer them, and that's that. So I will sign off now. I've already done the Backblast thing, so I'll just say Folks, I'll see you next time, and take care.